It has been over 6 months since my first Dead Rising video, and now I can finally do a proper version of the first game, since I have finally played the remake and I can take both games into account. My name is Rachel and I'll be ranking the Dead Rising survivors from worst to best, and I will be taking everything into account. Their personalities, their designs, some of the writing, and how annoying they are to rescue. This list was a lot harder to make compared to the second game. And that's because all of these survivors are just average Joes. They are everyday people. None of them really stand out. They all kind of blend together. I don't know a lot about any of these people, or what their jobs are, or why they're in the mall. It's mostly just help me, I'm scared, thank you for saving me. Like, only a few of them get stories. There's no tigers or drunk showgirls or rock stars or pharmacists being robbed or construction workers or stranded fake working mermaids or professional golfers or a has-been pop star and her assistant manager and stylist that she's keeping hostage and will blow up. There's no grandma there buying toys for her grandchild or even waiters. There's not a lot of people who work there despite it being a very big mall. There's no soldiers or martial artists or motocross bikers or Playboy bunnies, or paramedics or escort bodyguards or video game champions or strippers, or comedians or poker players or internet bloggers or environmentalists, or struggling artists or war veterans. I don't really know these people, so I don't care about most of them. A lot of the ideas or executions are taken from here and put in part 2, but are done a little better. I like every survivor in part 2, even the ones I hate. But most of the ones here are kind of mid. So I really had to nitpick to rank them. I think I also grew a bigger attachment to the part 2 survivors because the AI is so much better. It's actually too good. They're almost gods. The AI here is infamous for being bad. A comment once said, "It's like leading deaf, dumb, scared, yet somehow aggressive deer across a highway of drunk drivers." They sometimes run into hordes, they can constantly get grabbed, which will leave them surrounded. They constantly walk into walls and get stuck in plants. They're very loud and constantly cry. They sometimes kill themselves if they have a gun and get surrounded. They sometimes knock over other survivors and will leave that survivor to get surrounded. They sometimes run too fast or they don't follow you at all. They often won't listen to your commands. And they also don't know how to jump onto the ledge that leads them to the vent. They can be very ungrateful, and 2 of them can lead multiple other survivors to their impending doom due to their selfishness and their impatience. The AI isn't that bad with only 1 or 2 of them, especially if you know what you're doing, but the faults really start to show in groups of 4 or more, and you are going to have to do a lot of babysitting. Meanwhile, in part 2, you can bring them to a boss fight and they can help you defeat them. There's literally a trophy about it. Gordon is the worst survivor in the game. I mentioned him a little in my first video. I remember saying that if I ever made this video that Gordon would be very low. I didn't realize I'd place him dead last. So he's found around day 2 and he has a pretty short time span to get him. He spawns during a very busy time filled with other missions and survivors. And he's in one of the most packed parts of the mall. And befitting his name, he has a cowardly AI. You can give him a weapon, but he'll barely use it. And like some other cowardly survivors, he will sometimes just not run and will just crouch down and crawl, which can make the zombies easily swarm him. There are 3 paths you can take to escort him. You can take him from one end to Alfresco Plaza to the other, but again, it's one of the most packed parts of the mall. He probably will get grabbed. You can take him through the food court, through the park where the convicts might be, or through to the other side of Wonderland Plaza, if you want to avoid the packed Alfresco Plaza and the convicts. Or take him to Cliff's boss fight if you don't have time to backtrack for those 3 survivors, where he can probably get killed by Cliff. Every way is a pain in the ass. Jake Jakers pointed this out, but he's the least valuable survivor since the time you use to save him you could use to just take pictures of Jesse in the safe house. With the photography magazines, you can get a lot of PP through those erotica points. He also mentioned that he's most likely the guy that Todd and Brian were talking about at the beginning, which is kind of a shame because I like those two guys more. This man is only 29, which is a good design choice. He looks much older than he is. It's fitting that a very stressed out character also made my stress levels go up. This is the first of a few survivor groups that I'll be splitting up because I like one more than the other. I really think Aaron might be the most hated or infamous survivor because he's the first one that you come across that has that really bad survivor AI. Bill and Bert, and I guess Leah, even though you carry her, they're all some of the first survivors, even though a lot of players did not come across Bill. So Aaron and Bert are probably people's first experience with the survivors. And Aaron has a cowardly AI, and he's also a tethered survivor, so he won't follow you or your waypoints. He's going to follow Bert. If you kill Bert, he might still join you, and then he'll follow your waypoints, but he's still very difficult to get back to the safe house because he barely uses his weapon. He stops to cry a lot. He'll sometimes crouch down and crawl or cower. Do not give him a gun because if he gets swarmed with zombies, then he will just shoot himself. I highly recommend doing these two guys as soon as possible, so that way it's before the convicts spawn and before nighttime when the zombies get more aggressive and there's more of them. But Bert is going to be a little higher because Aaron sucks so much. This guy is also one of the most infamous survivors. Ronald McDonald, the fatso who proves Carlito's point right. He's so greedy. He will not come with you until you get him something to eat. And after you do, he's pretty close to the safe house. He's not hard to save. But then I think a day later, he has eaten all of the food at the safe house. So he gets the other survivors in his room riled up and convinces them to leave the safe house to go look for food. So you have to bring him food to calm him down so he doesn't take away your sweet survivors that you rescued. The thing that sucks about this mission, at least in the original, I haven't tried it out with the remake, is that once you enter the safe house, even if you don't have food on you, the second you leave, him and the rest of those survivors are gone. So if you don't have food, you enter the safe house to go talk to him, and then you try to leave to go get food, he's going to be gone when you get back. So you have to have food on you before you enter the safe house, which can also suck if you have a few survivors with you, and when you enter, you accidentally leave one behind on the rooftop, because then you have to hurry up and talk to him and skip through all the dialogue, or else the person on the rooftop can die. You can get like 10,000 PP by getting a picture of him laugh, but that's all he's useful for. He put my sweets, Pamela and Sophie, in danger. Also, I forgot to mention this, but he is found in Jill's Sandwiches, which is a reference to Resident Evil, obviously. Some people like Kendall, and I just don't see it. So he appears at midnight, pretty much right after that cutscene where Isabella was shot by Carlito, and then you have to carry her. He's in a tuxedo, so he's really stylish. And you talk to him and get him to join you. And the idea of it was that he was supposed to be your bodyguard, but the AI is so shit that I was constantly having to put Isabella down, help him, clear a path, pick her back up. He just gets in the way, and honestly, he kind of ruined the tone of the mission with the music. It was supposed to be really intense and sad carrying her back to the safe house, but it's just not, because you can't focus on that. You have to focus on Kendall not getting grabbed. Like, where did he come from? But worse yet, he's like Ronald. About a day later, he causes a stir in his safe room. He doesn't believe that the helicopter is coming. So he convinces the other survivors to follow him and go look for help, knowing that some of them are going to die, and he's okay with that. And you have to go talk to him so he doesn't make your precious survivors that you saved disappear, including my sweet Leah. And it's just like Ronald's. Once you enter the safe house, you can't leave until that's done, or else they'll all disappear. And he's not deep in North Plaza, but North Plaza can get pretty packed. So hopefully you have some queens on you. Alyssa is one of the few characters where I have problems with her in both games, but for different reasons. In the original, it was just her AI. The three of them are in a very packed part of the mall, but while Brett and Jonathan have pretty big guns, like a machine gun and a shotgun. She's a girl, so she can't be given big weapons, so she just keeps her handgun, which isn't that effective. And the wiki says she has very unique movements compared to everyone else, and I see it. I think they meant to make her a tethered survivor, probably to Brett or Jonathan, probably Brett. But I think they accidentally made her a tethered survivor to Frank because she sometimes won't follow his waypoints, she'll only follow him. And she also runs slower than Brett and Jonathan, so she, because of the bad AI, she's constantly getting stuck in hordes and left behind. It's awful. However, I did like her design and her personality. The reason I don't like her in the remake is her voice acting. In the original, she was kind of a chipper, smart airhead, and was also a flirt and giggled. But in the remake, she just sounds so angry. She just yells everything. That voice acting is not my Alyssa. One thing I did like about her, it's really small, but I think it kind of told a story. After Jonathan yelled at her, she runs towards Brett. So I think that means they have something going on. And I came to that conclusion on my own before I even read the wiki. I don't like Barbara, pretty much for the same reason I didn't like Alyssa. Her AI, compared to the two guys, is awful. One thing that makes her unique is that she can be given big weapons like the small chainsaw and I think a shotgun. But she is the worst out of the three. She can be used for that Frank the Pimp achievement. She's not necessary for it, but you can use her. But she's just constantly slow and running into walls or hordes or just not listening to your waypoint. Ugh. It is amazing how hard it is to get one group of survivors from one side of the mall to the other. I don't smoke, but anytime I finish this escort, I need a cigarette. These 5 are the hostage victims from Sean in the movie theater. You can save them after you beat Sean, and you're most likely going to do it at night. And for some reason, I don't know why, but after you finish this mission, after you finish defeating Sean, there are more zombies in the mall than usual. I don't know where they came from, but I think they were making it intentionally harder. And one of them can't even be given a weapon. Cheryl, you can hold her hand, but you can't give her a weapon. Beth is one of the few female survivors who can accept big weapons like the small chainsaw and the shotgun. Cheryl is necessary for the transmissionary achievement. She gives you a side quest, a very goofy but awkward side quest where you just go and take pictures of her while she does a sexy pose while everyone watches. In the original, they would cheer and object. But in the remake, they just stare, especially because the erotica genre was removed. So I don't understand why they didn't remove this side quest. Like, I'm not against it. It was just kind of awkward. While in the original, it was more camp. But I guess ranking them worst to best, I guess Nathan, because he's the most forgettable. And then Beth, because I don't like the inconsistency between her place in the cutscene and her place in the actual game. Where she's sitting, I mean. And then Ray. And then Michelle, because she has the same model as the girl who fell off the building in the beginning during the taking photos section. So in a way, it kind of feels like I had to redo to save her. And then Cheryl, even though she can't be given a weapon, but that's because she's necessary for trophies. And she's one of the few that Frank actually flirts with. But the whole thing is just so damn stressful. Rachel and Jolie are next, and I kind of wish they kept them as Verlene and Dana. Only because Rachel and Jolie, their designs are used as zombies all over the mall. While Verlene and Dana's are not. I bet Verlene would be Jolie because those are the two who ran away and abandoned their friends. Anyway, Rachel and Jolie are friends and they had a fight. I think because Jolie wanted to go somewhere or she just ran away, but they're on the first and second floor of the mall. They spawn during the sniper family, so you don't have to kill the sniper family to save them, but it is highly suggested because the sniper family will shoot them. Talk to Jolie first and then bring her to the second floor because Rachel won't join you until you get Jolie. So if you kill Jolie or you take her back to the safe house, then Rachel is unsavable. Rachel is a tethered survivor, so she won't follow you, she will only follow Jolie. They both can't be given weapons, however, Rachel has a cowardly AI. You can sometimes just tell by the way the girls run If they run really weird while you're holding their hand, or just in general, then they're cowardly. While Jolie is pretty aggressive, I've had problems with her running towards the True-Eye Colt and trying to push them. You can get a pretty nice PP pic of them hugging, but I think I'm going to place Jolie above Rachel because Rachel has a bad attitude when you get back to the safe house. Like, yeah, of course the place is depressed. Does she expect it to be a sauna or a vacation resort? Like, what's her problem? And why was she running away from Frank? Actually, wait, I'm assuming it's because there's a sniper family about, but we don't know that. They don't ever mention the sniper family. So I don't know if she knows about them, and if she doesn't know about them, then why is she scared of us? Rich and Josh are the other two survivors from the group you saved from Cliff. Barbara was a lot lower than them. And they're not high, but they're not terrible. They're just kind of forgettable. They have a pretty short time span in which you can save them by defeating Cliff. And they kind of suck to save if you haven't defeated the convicts yet. But again, their AI is better than Barbara. I placed Josh above Rich because he's more memorable with his dialogue. He thinks that Cliff was probably a nice old man before the outbreak happened, while Rich just has very normal "thank you for saving me" dialogue. These guys would probably be much higher on other people's lists, but I've always struggled with their AI. They're not hard to get back to the safe house if you have the shortcut unlocked. They spawn right around the same time that Adam the Clown does, but if you don't defeat Adam the Clown, then they're going to be a pain in the ass to get back to the safe house. You have to grab the Japanese magazine to talk with them, or else they won't join. You can get a pretty nice PP picture of them bowing once they join. I like the subtle implication that they've known how to speak English the whole time, but they're Japanese tourists touring in the middle of nowhere, and why they would go there rather than one of the big cities, I don't know, but I think this was Capcom's way of putting in their OCs. But Shinji won't follow you, he follows you. Get it? But no, he's a tethered survivor, so he only follows the other guy. You, not you. I just always struggle getting them down the stairs into the bathroom. Especially Shinji, they always get grabbed. But they're very fun. It's a very unique quest in the game. Bill is pretty much the first survivor in the game, but he's unannounced and he's very well hidden, so I can't imagine any new players knowing that he's there. I did not know that he was there until I saw an All Survivors guide. He's supposed to be a reward for exploring. He's on the second floor of the entrance plaza, and you'll pretty much save him after the cutscene with Dr. Barnaby. The upstairs is completely empty of zombies except for one little spot, and that's supposed to be your clue that there's probably something in there that's making the zombies gather around this one spot. But some of us are stupid. I would not have known that. What about deaf players? The vocal cue is supposed to be the survivors going, "Help, help." But I did not hear that the first time I played it. Anyway, after you save him, again, it's the first day, it's pretty early, so there's really not a lot of zombies other than in Alfresca Plaza. Once you get him past Alfresca Plaza, he's very easy to save. And you'll most likely bring him with you to the first time he meets Kent, where Frank meets Kent. And then after every time you talk to Kent, the way back to the safe house is usually completely void of zombies. And if you give him a shotgun, he's pretty good with a shotgun. He was trapped in, I think, a closet. He was stalking something and a bunch of boxes fell, so he completely missed the first 2 days of the outbreak and was very shocked once you free him, so he's got a little bit of a backstory. He runs shockingly fast for his size. But I just don't like how the first survivor is unannounced and very well hidden. Bert is way higher than Aaron, and I don't really know why. When you first meet them, Bert attacks you, so you have to beat him up a little, but not too much or else he'll defect. He is a very loyal friend, because if you kill Bert, Aaron might still join you. But for any reason, if you just walk past Bert and kill Aaron, then Bert won't join you. He's going to call you crazy, and he has every right to say that and not join you. But he's already equipped with a weapon. I think it's a baseball bat. So no need to give him a weapon, and he's pretty capable with it. I don't struggle with his AI that much. I really like his outfit for some reason. He's only hard if you save him during the convicts, or just at night when the zombies are more aggressive, which is why I suggest you save him as soon as possible. Wayne is the guy that's hiding from the Sniper family. 3 other survivors spawn around this time, but he's the only one that will not join you until you kill all 3 of them. Or in the remake, at least kill 2 of them. He runs very fast. Out of the 4 survivors, he's usually the most capable one with the weapon and speed. He has the best AI out of the 4. And he's pretty close to the safe house once you get him. I think the reason why he's a little lower is because you have to kill the Sniper family to rescue him. And he's just kind of forgettable to me. It's never explicitly said, like it is with another girl, that Leroy is bitten, but it's heavily implied that he is bitten. He's a slow guy. He's gonna be one of the last survivors you save. And he spawns during a very critical time during the bomb collector. So saving him kind of feels like you're wasting time, along with maybe 1 or 2 others. But he's found in Wonderland Plaza, kind of just moseying about this makeup shop. Because he's injured, he has a bandage on his neck. It's never explicitly said what the injury is, but there is some times where he'll just be standing, especially in the safe house, and he'll have the animation of a zombie scratching himself. I think they should have made him a survivor that you can give a shoulder to, but because he spawns the same time as Susan, a woman who you pretty much have to hold her hand, I don't think they wanted us to be overwhelmed with going back and forth with both. I think why he's lower, despite his AI being okay, is because they could have done a lot more with him. He just feels underused, like he's just kind of there, like they hooked a fish but then let it go. Floyd spawns at the same time the Sniper family does, along with Wayne, Rachel, and Jolie. So you most likely are going to save them as a group, and you get to carry Floyd. And I finally get to talk about this. I love the survivors that you can carry or give a shoulder to because they make Frank untouchable. But Floyd is someone you don't really need it with because the upstairs area is completely void of zombies. The Sniper family has probably killed them all. So once you kill the Sniper family, don't leave and then come back because then the zombies will probably be upstairs again. But he's in an antique shop and he is pretty much accepted the fact that he's going to die, so he wants to see beautiful stuff before he dies, and then Frank convinces him to see a museum and convinces him to live. It's a beautiful conversation, but it also kind of drags. The only downside to the survivors that you can give a shoulder to or carry is that if you're in a group escort, it can kind of suck because you're going to have to constantly put the person down, clear out zombies for the rest of the group, pick them back up, continue the cycle. And again, you won't really have to do that with Floyd because there's not a lot of zombies around. Floyd has a pretty unique AI. Only 1 other person has it, where he can run fast, he'll slow down, catch his breath, I think start walking and then run again and repeat the cycle. So it's just better to carry him. He has a side quest later where he will ask you for wine. And I forgot to mention this with Cheryl. And it'll happen with 2 other people, but they're not like Ronald and Kendall. Once you enter the safe house, you can leave the safe house and that quest will still be there. You do have more time to complete those quests because they aren't impatient bastards. But this also means he's necessary for the transmissionary achievement, as are Ronald and Kendall. I don't like this girl. I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and I would hope that I would not do what she did and then have such a shitty attitude about it. So she abandoned her twin sister and left her to die pretty much, and then tried to convince herself that it was okay what she did. Which I get, it's all about survival. But I'd like to think I'd show her more remorse than she did. She is the alpha. I'll get more into this with Pamela, but Heather will follow you, while Pamela will only follow Heather. Some people would probably have them flipped. I have her lower than Pamela. I think Pamela is just a much more likable character and pretty. I much prefer Pamela's outfit and hair over Heather's outfit and hair. Pamela has better style. And Heather's just such a spoiled brat. When you bring her back to the safe house, she's just so ungrateful. Heather, I think, would technically be easier to save because you don't need a queen to save her. They are unannounced, but very easy to find. And I'll get more into it with Pamela. But you already know that if it was the other way around and Pamela abandoned Heather, that Heather would not forgive Pamela like Pamela forgave Heather. Jonathan and Brett are the two guys I was talking about with Alyssa. They're found around day 3 in the gun store unannounced, and they're very unique. So when you enter the gun store, they will immediately start shooting at you. But then Jonathan will say stop and then go talk to you. And when you tell him there's a safe house with a vent, Alyssa doesn't believe you because she tried to get into the safe house. And they don't believe you about the vent. So Brett suggests that you go take a picture of the vent and then bring it back to show them. So if you haven't already taken a picture of the vent, this might kind of suck. But if you're smart, and you did because of the PP picture, and you saved it, then this is easy and they're all really smart. Brett has a very unique gun. I think it's the only time in the game you can get the machine gun. There are some times where Brett and Jonathan will just blast the zombies away because Jonathan is equipped with a shotgun, but they're just much more reliable and consistent compared to Alyssa, and faster. I like Brett's jacket. And in a way, Jonathan kind of defended Frank when he told Alyssa to shut up. I will place Brett above Jonathan though, even though Jonathan was the face and did most of the talking, because Brett is the silent leader, he has the machine gun, and I like his outfit. Susan is another one of the last survivors you might save. She's found on day 3 around bomb collector time. She's unannounced, and you'll probably save her the same time you save Leroy, because they're only a few feet away from each other. She is found in the play area, on top of what I think is a giant soccer ball. She was very smart to get high up. Because she is surrounded by zombies, it's recommended to bring a queen. And Susan is very funny. She has some fun dialogue. She knows how to make fun of herself. She is the other survivor I talked about when mentioning Floyd. You can hold her hand. Susan can run, but then she'll slow down, catch her breath, and then start, I think, running again. So either hold her hand the whole time, or if you don't want to hold her hand, when she starts to slow down, grab her hand and then let it go, because then I think that resets her running AI. But the trip to the bathroom in Wonderland Plaza isn't that bad. So she's not a hard survivor to rescue. It's just the timing of it all. Along with Leroy, you're going to be on a time crunch. And she is the oldest survivor in the game, I think. David is found on night 1, shortly after Adam the Clown and the Japanese tourist. He is in the North Plaza, which is a very packed area. But he shouldn't be a problem if you have the shortcut unlocked. But David is injured. I think he's the first survivor that you can give a shoulder to. I usually save him by himself, but I've seen a lot of people combine him and Greg or the Japanese tourist. David is injured because someone roughed him up, and that someone is Steven, the guy from the psychopath from the grocery store. So he is pretty much warning you what's going to happen in a few hours when you go get medicine for Brad. I don't find his dialogue when you get him back to the safe house rude. It's just more odd. He says this place is a bit out of the way, isn't it? Like, yeah, away from the zombies. Because I recommend saving him by himself, he's just a really easy person. He's just a really easy survivor. Even if you go through the park and you haven't dealt with the convicts, if you stay close to the wall, the convicts might not see you, and you also wouldn't have to worry about him running away or getting grabbed by the zombies. But I do find his storyline a little interesting, the fact that he's one of the few who has interacted with a psychopath, but he's not a victim that you have to save from a psychopath. How did Nick and Sally get in this situation? How did this happen? I'm assuming they somehow got on top of the bunny, but then they fell off, which is why they're hanging off. You can get some really good PP points from taking pictures of them hanging off. They are unannounced survivors, but if you do the Joe boss fight, you're definitely going to come across them. I highly recommend saving them after doing Joe's boss fight. Because one time I saved them, I took them to the bathroom, I made them stay, but then when the cutscene was over, they started walking to me because their AI reset. You have to, by the way, bring a queen. It's a lot quicker with queens. You have to knock them off with something light that won't hurt them too bad, like a hunk of meat, which is actually a hand. Nick can accept a weapon, but he's very frantic. He's very eager to join Frank, almost like a mentor hero. He wants to be saved, while Sally, you can't give her a weapon, you can hold her hand, but she's very calm. Because you'll be saving them with the Joe boss fight, it is not recommended to get them and then take them back to the safe house, because 3 of Joe's girls can die if you do that. If you leave Wonderland Plaza after you enter it, their health bars will go down. So as soon as you enter Wonderland Plaza, you have to do that boss fight. But because Sally can't take a weapon and 3 of the girls in Joe's boss fights also won't accept weapons, you'll have 4 girls who can't accept weapons. So they're all useless, and I'll get more into it with them. But Sally is more useful than Nick, because Sally can be used for the Frank the Pimp achievement. So a lot of people probably killed Nick as soon as they saved him, which is why I'm placing Sally above Nick. It's fitting that I'm placing the Joe boss fight girls slightly above Sally and Nick, and that I'm talking about them now. These girls are damn near necessary for the Frank the Pimp achievement. It is so hard to get that achievement without these 4 girls. That is pretty much their only use, because 3 of them are useless. These girls are very unique for 2 reasons. One, when you enter Wonderland Plaza for the first time after this scoop spawns, you can't leave, because if you leave, then 3 of the girls' health bars will start to go down. And also, you have to do this scoop as soon as possible, because when it's in the blue, all 4 are alive. If it's in the yellow, 1 girl is dead. If it's in the orange, another girl is dead. If it's in the red, a 3rd girl is dead. And Joe will also attack some of the girls during the boss fight. So it's kind of the only boss fight where there is a true sense of urgency, and where it feels like the victims are actually in danger. They all have slightly different reactions to being saved. Kay is the only one you can give a weapon to, which makes sense because she is the angriest and is the only one who really kind of wanted to fight Joe when you save her. I have not mentioned this yet, but I've talked about how Frank can hold a girl's hand. Well, he can actually hold 2 girls' hands at once, which would be cool if there weren't 3 girls, and then 4 girls once you get Sally, and Frank only has 2 hands, so there's going to be 2 girls whose hands you can't hold. So Kay and Nick are going to be your only bodyguards. Ranking them worst to best, I'm going to put Lily last because I think she's the most forgettable, and then Janet because this is kind of gross to talk about, but funny. She has the biggest breasts in the game. When you take a picture of a woman's breast, there's usually 1 big circle, but when you take a picture of Janet, there's 2 singular circles around each breast. It's kind of uncomfortable. And then Kelly, I think she's my favorite. She has my favorite design, and she's the most calm. I don't really struggle with her AI like I do Lily and Janet's, and sometimes Kay because she can get kind of aggressive. But Kay is the best. She's in the cutscene. She can't die. She's the only one who won't die if you leave Wonderland Plaza or if you take too long to start the scoop. And she's the only one who can be given a weapon, so it gives her some more agency. And she also appears in a cutscene at the beginning when Frank sees a woman get eaten by zombies from a monitor. But Kay is definitely best girl. Ross and Tanya appear, I think around 7 a.m. on day 2 in Wonderland Plaza. Ross is injured, someone shot him, and that someone was most likely Joe trying to kidnap Tanya, to add her to that group of girls, and Ross protected her. It's kind of crazy to think that Joe is probably just on the other side, upstairs from where you're talking, because these scoops happen both upstairs Wonderland Plaza, just across from each other. You have to talk to both of them. Frank suggests leaving Ross behind because he can't walk, and Tanya refuses, and then Frank agrees to carry Ross. Tanya is one of the few women who can accept chainsaws and shotguns, even though she has a pretty normal build. I think she's the only young female survivor AI with that AI. It's usually only the bigger woman or the older woman who can accept the big weapons. Anyway, I like the fact that we can carry Ross. I've heard some people have a lot of trouble with Tanya's AI because Tanya is also a tethered survivor. She will not follow you, she will follow Ross. And I've heard some people say she's really aggressive and always runs towards the zombies, but that's never happened to me. I don't know what's going on. So I've never really struggled getting them back to the safe house other than having to put Ross down once or twice to clear a pathway for Tanya. Anyway, on to the most infamous part about this scoop. Ross asks you for a gun, and if you give him a gun, he will blow his brains out, and you get a very nice PP picture for it, and then if that happens, Tanya refuses to go with you. The game tricks you. But you know, it's okay. Just don't bring a gun with you. It'll be okay. This part is kind of evil. I mean, just for him to do that right in front of her and then expect her to carry on. I also don't like Tanya's voice acting in the remake. It's the same problem with Alyssa. There's just not a lot of depth to it. It's just constant yelling. It just doesn't sound like her. I feel like she'd be more sad and emotional than angry, based on how much she cries in the original. I am placing Ross above Tanya, though. What a great boyfriend. I think this is the only time where the alpha is someone you can carry, so because of that, it's pretty easy to keep Tanya close to you, because sometimes with the alphas, they will veer off, which will make their tethered veer towards them, which can get you in trouble with the zombies swarming 2 of your survivors. One thing I like, I don't think this was intentional, Ross usually just sits down in the safe house, while Tanya will stand and usually talk to the other survivors. Well, when they're in there by themselves, she'll be talking to him, and he'll just sit there, injured. So, like, in my head, I'm just like, Tanya, leave this poor man alone. She's just yapping his ass off. But I do like these two. Jennifer is technically the first survivor you can save from Sean and the True-Eyed Cult, but this time you're more or less saving her from the True-Eyed Cult, but that brings their hostage count to 6, I think. They spawn on day 2 around 1 p.m., and when the cutscene is over, this is when the True-Eyed Cult will start to spawn around the mall. In the cutscene, they are about to sacrifice Jennifer, and Frank was just going to stand there and take a picture like an asshole until Sean noticed him, but killed the True-Eyed Cult that surrounds her to save her. And she has a cowardly AI, I think. She can't accept weapons. You can hold her hand, but she's not hard to get back to the safe house. She's on the other side of Paradise Plaza. Just walk across the mall. However, this time, whether you go straight or up the stairs, there will be a group of True-Eyed Cult in the way. She can be very helpful for the Frank the Pimp achievement. Again, I don't think she's necessary for it, but you can use her for it. Her dialogue, when you get her back to the safe house, I think is interesting. She says, "I'm never going to get myself caught up in something like that again." So that makes me think she's not a completely random person they stumbled across. I think maybe that means she seeked them out, not understanding what they truly were, and then when she wasn't about it, they were like, okay, she knows too much, let's sacrifice her. One thing I find funny is this escort can spawn around the same time Ronald does. So if you haven't saved Ronald and then you come back to Paradise Plaza and then this cutscene shows, Ronald can just be in the background and you can see him in there. In Jill's Sandwich, I think. I forgot to mention, but the restaurant that you save Ronald in is called Jill's Sandwiches, which is a reference to the original Resident Evil. But honestly, there's really no reason not to save her. She's a pretty easy save. Especially if you're coming in through the park. If you're coming in through the entrance plaza and you have survivors with you, I understand wanting to go back for those survivors so they don't get caught in the horde of zombies or True-Eyed Cult when their AI is starting to head for you. Because I believe you, Frank, no matter where you entered from, will always spawn by the leisure park door. Her outfit is so 70s. Gil is another survivor that you can offer a shoulder to, but not because he's injured, but because he's drunk. So when you're not giving him a shoulder and he's walking, he walks very weird. It's almost like he's clipped. Anyway, he is an unannounced survivor. You find him in the food court drinking a bunch of wine. And I think in a way, he is kind of your reward for going to get wine for Floyd. It is recommended when you get Gil to pick up some wine to bring back to Floyd. So you have it before his quest starts. Gil originally refuses to come with you until you walk away, and then he's like, wait, come back. Are you serious about the helicopter? You can also get a pretty nice PP point picture of him posing. If you have dealt with the convicts, he's pretty easy to get back through the park, but if you want to go through the shortcut, that is also pretty easy. You will most likely rescue him alone unless you have the gun shop trio with you. I've rescued him with the gun shop trio once. I prefer saving him alone. I find Gil to be kind of realistic, because even though getting drunk during an outbreak is really stupid, I think that's kind of a good way to go out. Drinking to numb the pain but accept the reality and hopefully make the death less painful. He seems like a guy who had given up until he met Frank. So similar to Floyd, who also asks for wine, you give him a reason to live. Also, I don't think people have picked up on this character design, but his cheeks are flush red. A lot of people, when they get drunk, their cheeks turn very red. So I think that was a very good character design. And I also like the wine that's spilt on his shirt. And because he's drunk, his body language is also very physically expressive. But I like Gil. I usually always save him. Long-haired punk is a psychopath battle, and I will be including all 3 of the survivors you can rescue from it. Paul is the first and only psychopath that you can save. After his boss fight is over, you have to put out the fire on his pants or else he'll die, but he also gives you a pretty nice PP picture for it. Mindy and Debbie were his victims. He thinks they were making fun of him, so he locks them in a closet and was threatening them before Frank shows up. And they are terrified of him, but you can save all 3 of them together, and they don't really have any dialogue about him. I think that's the only downside. I wish they talked about him, but because they don't, it seems that they forgive him pretty quickly. Debbie is one of the few women who can accept bigger weapons like the small chainsaw and shotgun. Mindy, you can't give weapons to Mindy. Mindy, you can hold her hand though. You might save these 3 with Susan and Leroy. However, they spawn a little bit before them, so you can save them before Bomb Collector and those other 2 even spawn and start. The 3 of them are very easy to get back to the safe house because by now the True-Eyed Cult is gone. Paul and Debbie have pretty good AIs, and so does Mindy. She's very good at just wiping down zombies. She'll put her hands out in front of her and just run. She doesn't stop and cry. She's very calm. Even when you get her back to the safe house, she's just like, what a day. Thanks for your help. Mindy and Debbie are a bit like the Joe boss fight girls. When this scoop starts and you enter Wonderland Plaza, you have to do it because if you leave Wonderland Plaza, Mindy and Debbie's health bars will start to go down and they can die. So when you go back, and you start the cutscene, they'll appear in the cutscene, but they'll already be dead, and then Paul is the only one you can save. I don't know why that is. I'm sure they probably went to Wonderland Plaza, then left, then went back, started the cutscene, beat Paul, opened the closet door, and the girls weren't there, and they were probably like, what the fuck, where are they? Paul will later ask you to come talk with him in the safe house. He is necessary for the transmissionary achievement, and he doesn't ask you to bring him anything like everyone else. Or even do anything like Cheryl does. He just talks to you and then he'll give you a present and then the side quest is over. Paul's boss fight, I find it a bit unmemorable. He's not the best psychopath villain. He's just only a memorable psychopath because you can save him. So worst to best, I'm going to put Debbie last just because she's the least memorable. And then Mindy because out of all the girls who you can't give a weapon to, she's the best and most capable, and then Paul, because obviously he's the most memorable, being the psychopath you can save from burning to death. Further proving my point that they forgave him is that all 3 of them are in the same safe room. This is probably because survivor groups always appear in the same safe room together, but I think this is the one time they should have split them up. I think Paul should have been in a different room than them, but also Paul has a unique AI in the safe room because he's the only one that's never seen talking to anyone. He usually just keeps to himself in the back. It's very rare to see him engaging with the other survivors. I'm going to say something that might be controversial. Pamela is the best looking survivor in the game. Her and Heather have my favorite face models. I think they're the most smooth and the most pretty. But Pamela has the better hair and outfit and accessories. I love the 69 baseball shirt. I think it shows that she is sporty, but also kind of kinky. In the remake, they removed their thongs. So they used to have thongs that you can get erotica points for. And again, that game came out in 2006, so that was very of the time. Heather and Pamela, though, besides Natalie and Jeff, they are the closest to the safe house. They are unannounced, but when you leave the warehouse on day 2 around 10 a.m., or God forbid you come in through the other side from the park, Pamela is surrounded by zombies banging on the window begging for Heather's help. And she somehow survives and doesn't get bit or scratched, and so this is why it's really good to have a queen. If you have a queen, Pamela is very easy to save. But yeah, when you leave the warehouse, you'll pretty much hear a scream and like a girl go help, and that's your clue that something's going on and that you should hurry. Pamela has a unique AI. If you get her to join, and only her, she will follow Frank. But then when you go talk to Heather and you get Heather to join, she will become a tethered survivor and she'll only follow Heather. But if you save Pamela but then don't talk to her, and then you go talk to Heather and get Heather to join, when Heather gets close to Pamela, Pamela will immediately join. No need to talk to her. And then when you get back to the safe house, she's much more thankful. She's just so cute. And her and Heather, they always talk in the safe house, and they have twin animation. Like literally, they do the exact same movements when they're arguing or talking with their hands. Pamela does have a cowardly AI, I think, so when you're holding her hand or if you leave her alone, she might start crawling or crouch. But again, you're very close to the safe house. However, these two girls can be used for the Frank the Pimp achievement. I don't think they're necessary, but they're very helpful, and I highly suggest using them for the Frank the Pimp achievement. And so because of that, that's when you might see that AI of her crawling around or running weird in the original. I oddly ship her with both Bert and Aaron. Is that weird? Pamela is my favorite survivor in the game, but I know she's not the best. So I was able to be slightly objective. I think Pamela is on the Unbreakable achievement solely because she was able to survive that horde of zombies. Sophie is such a memorable survivor because she's the girl in the cutscene when you first meet the convicts. She's the only one that you can save from Leisure Park. No other survivor is out there. You don't have to kill the convicts to save Sophie, you just have to catch up with her. But I recommend killing them because they can run her down. In the cutscene, Frank is walking, and you see these two, and you see Sophie and the guy she's with walking. And they literally just look like they're like on a stroll, even though there are zombies out there. I don't know what they're doing. But where the hell did these convicts come from? How did they get this vehicle? Anyway, the convicts see them, they drive to him, they hit the guy, they kill him. I don't think you can ever find that guy's body. I think he's one of the few who die in a cutscene that you don't see appear in the game. But Sophie screams, and then afterwards she's running around asking for help. It's just very impactful. Once you save her, she's very easy to get back to the safe house. There aren't a lot of zombies yet. Poor Sophie, we were all perverts to her because when she is in the safe house, you can get a lot of erotica points from her by the way she's sitting. At least 700 or maybe more if you have the magazines. But she's just in there traumatized, and then we, the player, the pervert, are just taking 30 pictures of her. And this poor girl, she is fully covered head to toe. Yet the crotch area is giving her PP points. It's just like, again, it's uncomfortable, but it's like interesting. I don't mind it, but it's weird. She's definitely a romantic at heart. I think most of us have gotten a big red Sophie Richards is dead icon across our screens. A lot of people might save her with Bert and Aaron and one other girl. And if you do, I think that's most people's first impression to what a group escort will look like. And they only get harder from here. Simone is what Leroy could have been. I think she's the only survivor where you have to play the story in order to save her. She has been bit. Her whole family and her boyfriend are dead. And if you finish the mission Santa Capeza, then Frank will tell her that Isabella is a medical technician and that she might be able to help her and that she might have a chance. But if you didn't finish Santa Capeza, then Frank has no merit. She doesn't believe him. He doesn't have anything to tell her that will give her hope, and she will refuse to go with you. So it's your choice. Would you rather save Simone or Dr. Barnaby? I'd rather save Simone. Simone has a better chance at living than Dr. Barnaby obviously did. Because in the Dead Rising universe, it is possible to not turn if you're bit if the bite isn't deep enough, I think. She's most likely going to be the last survivor you save in the game. Her or this other guy. And she's also one of the youngest. Later on, after you save her, she will have a side quest, so she's necessary for Transmission Area achievement. She will ask you to bring her a gun, just in case she does turn, that they can take care of it. It's a pretty sad but dark but realistic kind of story. She's very grounded and wise for her age. And again, as long as you did that mission, she is super easy to save. She is so close to the safe house. She is basically a few feet away from where you saved Pamela and Heather. And when you first see her, she's just so defeated. She's in front of a window, and so the zombies can see her, but she doesn't really care because she's just waiting to become one of them. But what they did with her, they could have done to Leroy. If you did the main story, she is a very easy PP award for you. When I talked about Simone, I mentioned another guy. Well, this is that guy, Tad. Tad is simultaneously the easiest and hardest survivor to save. So I bet a lot of people did not save him. In order to save Tad, you have to meet Kent on the first day and do his little photo shoot quest. And then you have to meet Kent on the second day. In the original, you have to have a erotica photo worth 700 points, and in the remake, you have to have an outtake photo worth 700 points. And then that will get you to unlock the third quest on the third day, and which unlocks at noon, and you have to get there in 30 seconds. As soon as you hit Paradise Plaza, the cutscene will unlock, but if you get there after 31 seconds, after 12:30, then Tad will be dead and you will unlock the alternate version of the boss fight. But if you get there on time, you will see Tad tied up. Kent wants to turn him into a zombie and get him turning into a zombie caught on camera, which is what happened if you were too late to save him. He turned into a zombie, Kent got it on camera. Kent represents what Frank would have become if Frank didn't have humanity in him and was only caring about the story and the shot rather than human lives. So Frank stops Kent, and then they fight, and then Frank kills Kent and refuses to take his picture. And then you can untie Tad and save him, and he's like, man, I hope you don't freak out or turn crazy like that other guy, which is valid. I understand him not wanting to trust photographers. In the original, I don't know if this is the case with the remake anymore. In the original, after you save Tad, the way back to the safe house is completely void of zombies. It is so easy to just walk. And I think that was a little reward for you, like you went through this much, here's an easy path back to the safe house. Along with Simone, depending on how you go about it, he might be the last survivor you save. I usually save him and Simone together because Simone also spawns at noon, so they both spawn at noon. You can also do Simone on your way back from Bomb Collector, so you can finish Bomb Collector and then go save her. But I don't do that. I usually wait by the warehouse door, wait for it to hit noon, and then you'll get a call from Otis about Simone, and then I exit the warehouse, and then the cutscene starts. And because there's no zombies on the way to the warehouse, that makes it extra easy to save Simone. Despite him being a little older than her, I oddly ship these two. Also, I was wrong. You have to be in Paradise Plaza before 12:05, not 12:30. I said 12:30 because I mixed it up because you only have 30 seconds to get there. 30 seconds is 5 in-game minutes. Tad is also a very unique survivor because I forgot to mention this. There is an 8 survivor limit. You can only have 8 survivors with you at once, and all the scoops, if they total up to 8 survivors, then more scoops will not appear or spawn until those current scoops are either saved, killed, or they run out of time. Tad is different. He does not count towards the 8 survivor limit, so he can be the 9th survivor. I really think they should have made that a trophy, have 9 survivors, and obviously Tad would have been necessary for that. I have not done this yet, but I really want to, just because I want to get a screenshot of those sweet, sweet 9 survivors. Leah, in my opinion, is one of the most infamous, well-known survivors. She's one of the first you'll come across. You might save her with Bert and Aaron because she spawns shortly after they do, and she's only a few feet away from them. And you might save her along with Sophie as well, although I wouldn't recommend it. But hey, a lot of people do. And I think the reason why she's so well known and why there were like articles written about this specific part is because at first, Dead Rising's just a fun zombie game. You've only come across a few survivors at this point, and then when you meet her, shit gets real. She has an ankle injury, but I don't think she's bit, so you can carry her. It's never really said what the ankle injury is. But when you meet her, she's crying, and then she lunges towards you, asking, where's Grace? And you're like, who the hell is this Grace person? And then Frank pushes her off, and then she starts crying more, saying, leave me alone, and then reveals that her baby, Grace, just died, and she saw her get eaten by the zombies. And I think most players are like, oh my god, this poor woman. And at this point in the game, it's still very early, so Frank is still kind of an asshole. So he doesn't handle it the best, but he does get her to go with him. And then when she's back at the safe house, she says something like, I guess I'm going to have to do enough living for the both of us now. But she's one of the few survivors who actually has a story and a background, and that most players probably remember. I almost thought about placing her at number 1, but just for the shock factor, but I think the next 3 edge her out. But she is in the same safe room as Kendall, so if you don't finish Kendall's mutiny, then she can disappear. And when he said, I know some of us might not make it, and that's a risk I'm willing to take, I think he was subtly jabbing over at Leah and her injured ankle. He was probably whispering to everyone else, hey, we can use that one as a distraction. Because you have to carry her because she is so slow, there's just no reason to let her walk. Her AI obviously isn't bad. If she dies, it's your fault. Unless the convicts are out and you constantly get hit by the convicts. I try to save her alone at night because even though it's at night with more zombies, Frank is untouchable when he's giving someone a shoulder or carrying them. Honestly, the worst part about her in the remake is almost all of the survivors give Frank tips when they're on the way back to the safe house. So after hearing her very sad story and getting her to join, she can just randomly go, hey Frank, there's a photo op over there. It might be some cool PP. They should have done something to make her AI not do that. Out of every survivor, she's the one who would not say that and sound chipper about it. I said Bill was the first survivor. No, Jeff and Natalie are the first survivors, but they don't really count because they are tutorial survivors. As soon as you leave the safe room for the first time and you get on the roof, you're going to see them. I don't know how they got lost from each other. They're on opposite sides of the rooftop and you have to reunite them. And you can get a very easy PP picture for it. So it's not only a tutorial on survivors, but also a tutorial on photo ops. Natalie, there's really no reason to bring these guys down to the warehouse and the mall. I don't know why some people do this. But Natalie can be given big weapons like the small chainsaw and the shotgun. Natalie is also a tethered survivor, so she won't follow you, she will follow Jeff. So because of this, she has one of the worst AIs ever. But it's kind of intentional because why would you ever bring her anywhere but the safe house? So if you do, you kind of deserve to have her bad AI. I guess they're just confused elderly people. I understand. I forgot to mention this with Susan, and I think Debbie, but I can't remember if it was Debbie or not. But they made Susan and Natalie wear pants in the remake because I remember in the original, if you got upskirt shots of them rather than erotica, you'd get horror. But these guys are everyone's first survivors, even mine, way back when. Natalie is so loud. In the original, the safe room would be so quiet, and then as soon as you save them, she is so loud in the safe room. But they are without a doubt the easiest survivors in the game to rescue. They don't even feel like survivors because they're so damn easy. In part 2, it would be the equivalent of finding the survivors in this area. I don't really know what to call it, but it would be like finding Denise or Gordon and Lashandra here. They couldn't have at least put them in the warehouse? However, back in the day, Dead Rising's loading screens took absolutely forever. So that was probably for the best that they didn't do that. I really did not want to place Greg as number 1 because it's just too obvious. Everyone has Greg as number 1. I wanted to be unique and special and be different. But I can't not have him as number 1 because it's freaking Greg. He gives you the holy grail, the shortcut. He is the reason why most of these survivors are tolerable because of that shortcut. Players who don't even save survivors usually save Greg because that shortcut is so damn valuable and time-saving. However, you have to beat one of the hardest psychopath battles in the game to get the shortcut. So it kind of balances it. You have to beat Adam the Clown because Greg is on the ride. And you can only stop the ride with Adam the Clown's card. When you do, one thing is interesting is that Greg never officially joins you. Every time you get a survivor to join you, it always puts their name like Sophie Richards joined in blue. But that never happens with Greg. You just start to follow him, and he'll lead you to the shortcut, and then you'll both go through the shortcut, and then he's following you. No Greg Simpson joined in blue. When he's running, if he gets too far away from you, you can get a pretty nice PP photo op of him waving like Insane Frank. Another thing that's interesting is when you get him back to the safe house, he'll jump for joy and go, "Otis, you're alive." So cute. But he is the only survivor that's not in a safe room. He stands next to Otis. He is glued to that spot. He will not leave that spot. And you know what? That's his throne. He freaking deserves to be different and stay away from the rest of those peasants because he saved most of those peasants. He is the reason why most of those peasants get saved. He deserves that little spot of his own. And I have to say, if you defeat Adam and just to get the shortcut, and then you go through the shortcut and you don't save Greg, you just like walk off and let him die, you are a monster. I don't respect you. I don't care that it's a video game. You say thank you, and you bring him back to that safe house because he's earned it, and you let him stay next to his friend. In my Dead Rising 2 videos, I had Lynette really high, but I didn't have her number 1 because her shortcut isn't as useful as this freaking shortcut. Greg is the most valuable survival. He's the most valuable survivor. He is the holy grail of the survivors. And again, I didn't want to place him number 1, but I had to place him number 1. And again, most people might save him with the Japanese tourist and maybe David. And honestly, I think because Adam is probably the hardest psychopath in the game, I think that's why they gave you such a valuable shortcut as a reward. Because most people probably wouldn't want to do that boss fight again on a second or third playthrough, but this makes you want to do that boss fight so you can get the shortcut. So, pretty smart decision making. I like Adam, but I don't think I would do his boss fight every single time I play the game. But I do because of the shortcut. In part 2, the shortcut is valuable, but it's not as valuable because in part 2, there's so many different paths and routes you can take, but with part 1, there's not. It's just one big circle in the outside, so the shortcut literally transports you from one side of the mall to the other, from one woman's bathroom to another woman's bathroom. And so for that, I thank you, Greg. Also, because it's in the woman's bathroom, what the fuck are the workers doing in there? I don't trust any of them. I think they're all peeping toms. I'm not going to talk about this too much because I already did in the Dead Rising 2 video. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am a woman, and I was against them removing the erotica genre. I don't mind the erotica genre. I only thought 1 or 2 things were kind of weird, but other than those two things, I thought it kind of blended into the world and Frank's character fine. I did this in my first video, but right now I'll be talking about who I think are hot as a homage to the erotica genre. RIP. Okay, so I already talked about this, but I think Pamela is the best looking survivor, and I think Isabella is the best looking character in the series, period. Other survivors, I think I said Tad and Simone are cute. I think Kelly is the cutest out of Joe's girls, and then Kay is a close second. I think Mindy is kind of cute. I think Verlene is the best looking out of all the survivors who died in the beginning. Frank, I think, was cute for a 2006 main protagonist. Bert and Aaron are alright. Brett and Alyssa as well. I've always had a soft spot for Brad. I think Ross has the best body. Cheryl is kind of an easy pick. I think she's the only survivor who will give you erotica points just for photographing her face. You're kind of forced to think Sophie is cute based on how many pictures you take of her in the safe house. I think Michelle is probably a sleeper hit. And I think Josh is oddly adorable. As for psychopaths, Carlito is a pretty easy pick. Sean is definitely a fit old man based on how fast he moves, but he's not as fit as the other old man, Cliff, who is sexy. And a part of that is because of his voice. He is voiced by Stephen Bloom, who also voices the dad in the Sniper Family, and I oddly think him and the oldest son are kind of cute. But again, other than Pamela and Isabella, nobody really sticks out that much. They all kind of look the same. To anyone who watched this, thank you. I appreciate it, especially you, Brick Collector. Love you. I don't know if I'll make another video, but if I do, it will either be about the game Date Everything or the new upcoming game Agefield High. Both of which I have an obsession with recently, but one of them isn't even out yet. I started using a new editing app, which is why this one looks slightly better than the last 2 videos. I'm slowly learning. I love Dead Rising, and I love saving the survivors, but I think it was pretty clear that even though I like saving the survivors in part 1, I don't like the part 1 survivors as much as part 2. So there is passion, just not as much passion. Except for Pamela. If I could take Pamela and place her in the second game would be perfect. I just realized that this black mark on the front of her shirt is a P. P for Pamela. I am stupid. I was so focused on the 69 that I didn't even notice. I love you, my lovelies. What very little of you there are. This was, again, very fun to make, but also very tedious, because, again, I am using a phone for everything. I still can't afford a mic. Nothing has changed. Toodles!